We still have a lot of people joining, but good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody for joining the closing session of Catalyzing Change Week. And wow, what a week it has been. 120 sessions, and I know some sessions as we speak are winding up. This is our closing session, and as we move over and I hand over to the chair of the closing session, Jamie Drummond, I would first like to thank Jamie because he's been the chair of Catalyzing Change Week and the person helping us behind all of this. So a big thank you to you, Jamie, for making all of this happen. And I also want to thank the 36 members of Catalyst who helped put and create the 120 sessions. So a big thank you to all of you from all over the world making Catalyzing Change Week what it is. And now over to our phantasmaglorious chair of CCW, Jamie Drummond. Da-da-da, over to you, Jamie.
Guru. Oh, thank you for that. And I just want to say also just on a personal level, whenever I engage with the Catalyst Network, it's always a great, well, it's an honor and privilege, but it's above all exciting and invigorating and a little bit challenging. I'm just warning our panel about that too. I spend a lot of my time working in some of the drier areas of technocratic details of trying to get communiques through G7, G20 countries and so on. And I love the energy from the Catalyst Network that's so impatient for impact, for doing things in co-benefit ways, and for making sure that there's a real localization revolution and energy for delivery that is just extremely impatient and innovative. So thank you everyone for carrying that fire and for sharing it and growing it. And above all, what we want to do is call upon our panelists, in a sense, to join us and to commit to carrying that flame into their institutions too. That power of innovation is exhibited by all the panelists themselves. So we really want to hear above all from them. They've been sent a letter that is a summation, a summary of the kinds of things the Catalyst community wants to see changed in the policy-making world to enable the the Catalyst Network, the social entrepreneurs to access resources, help shift power and process, help with collaborative funding models that enable intersectoral local leadership to really drive change. And the specific things in the letter posted in the WhatsApp group that has been sent to the panelists, which we'll be going through the panelists and getting some responses on, are around, how can social entrepreneurs and community leaders have a seat at the decision-making tables? How can they find access to one-stop shops from the senior-most decision-making places, so it's easy to know who to talk to? Those one-stop shops also ideally having access to real funding. And how can we co-design collaborative funding models that get out of the kind of the classic relationships that are quite challenging for innovative thinking? And then there's more specific things such as asking countries as well as corporations to have social innovation strategies, and then with specific institutions, for example, the UN, to have an office, a high-level position for social entrepreneurs. So again, exhibiting that kind of one-stop shop place to go. And then things like when it comes to contracting, open contracting, there's something like $10 trillion a year public procurement. Not much of that is pro SDG right now. Very little of it is in fact open. How can it be digitized? How can the decision making and contracting be done better? And how could Catalysts and social entrepreneurs get access to some of those bigger procurement processes and help them deliver better and challenge the ways they've been working in the past? So that's the kinds of things that were in the letter and what we'd like to put to the panelists. And I just wanted to check, has the DG Marie Velas Espin been able to join us?
Yes, here I am.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Unfortunately, I can't see you, but I believe you're there. There you are.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. We've heard a lot about your work and your own innovation. So we'd love to sort of hear from you, your response to the letter, and frame it if you can as advice to us about how this network can talk better with people like you in government on the inside and come up with these kinds of, new models and new ways of doing things, and help you implement better on the inside, but help you help us
Okay.
by through one-stop shop, and access to funding, places that are easy for us to go to find the levers of power and access to funding.
Thank you. Hello, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this session. It is a pleasure to share with you our concerns about your initiatives about social entrepreneurship. As you know, Spain has a long tradition of social economy organizations involved in income-generating activities for social rather than commercial purposes. Today, I'm here representing a Ministry of Labor and Social Economy, so you can have an idea of the importance we are giving to this issue. Our country's social economy exists alongside new social entrepreneurship and innovation agents that promote business support, incubators, facilities, or learning and exchange platforms. I will focus on your letter to the policymakers. We completely share the vision of the need of change to solve societal challenges through innovative approach and having the SDG as a priority. This should be the path of the reconstruction and reforms of our economies and societies in these troubled times. As an example of what I am saying, I will explain briefly the Spanish position related to specific recommendations of your letter. We have already a High Commissioner for Spain's Entrepreneurial Nation Strategy reports directly to the Prime Minister. The governance model includes a working group as the Interministerial Technical Forum, an advisory council as the space for entrepreneurial ecosystem and civil society, and a sectorial conference as the territorial council with the regional governments. The aim is to support innovation and entrepreneurship with local, regional, national, and European funds as horizontal issue to all policies. On February 2021, the Spanish President Pedro Sánchez presented a new strategy in Spain for entrepreneurs called the Spain Entrepreneurial Nation Strategy. The strategy includes a national plan for social entrepreneurship. This part of the program is focused on seeking the social impact of economically sustainable and viable business models over time. The Spain Entrepreneurial Nation Strategy includes the creation of a national entrepreneurship office to generate a one-stop shop for entrepreneurs, investors, and the rest of the ecosystem to access all of opportunities of collaboration between the central government, regions, and city councils in order to improve entrepreneurship in the respective areas. Other project is the National Network of Centers of Entrepreneurship to help connect the different incubators and accelerators and venture builders that we have in Spain. Our plans for social economy include the Recovery and Resilience Facility focuses on the strengthening of social economy at local level and the digitalization of the organizations. The Spanish government have also strong commitment with the Agenda 2030. The aim is to measure the contribution of all policies and programs to the achievement of the SDG. Spanish law on public sector's contract represents an important milestone for the development of social enterprises. So the public authorities may reserve service contracts of a social, cultural, and health nature to organizations whose mission is delivering general interest services which reinvest their profits for the accomplishment of their mission and which are owned by workers or other stakeholders. As you can see, it seems that we are moving in the right direction, but we have to go further. As you know, change is very hard to obtain. In this sense, I would like to underline some other gaps related with social entrepreneurs we have to face. Lack of visibility and media coverage, lack of education and training. We need more expertise, so we need to work closely with universities and other training centers. We also need more and better social impact evaluations, and it is necessary to find more investors and workers who share the principles of the social entrepreneurs. Finally, we need more financial services, specifically addressing social enterprises and adapted to their specific features. There's a long way ahead of us, and in this route, you can count on our support. Thank you very much. I hope.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you personally for your leadership, and it's wonderful to see Spain have the policies in place, the ministry in place that we're asking for. Quick question for you, which maybe you can also engage in the chat with some of our members as well. But how are you seeing other countries, hearing other countries also wanting to have a similar ministry, similar policies in the way Spain is having them?
We have only one example, but it's not a ministry, it's a general secretary in France. And that is a very important reference for us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. We'll come back to you. Wonderful, and thank you for joining. And I'm sure you will hear more from the catalysts in Spain and those inspired by the kind of frameworks that you're pioneering and leading on. Thank you for joining us. So I can turn on now to Stefan Durkon, an old friend who's an innovator in policy entrepreneur, and both from Blavatnik and also with your role as an advisor, which I'm sometimes not allowed to talk about, I can't tell, to the FCDO, which is having its own sort of interesting disruptive period at the moment. So Stefan, your reactions, please, to what you've heard from the Catalyst community, the social entrepreneur world, and the letter, your constructive criticism of it, please.
Well, thank you, Jamie. Thank you for inviting me. Look, I feel like I should explain my role. I speak here for myself as someone from the University of Oxford, but I do advise at the moment to the UK Foreign Secretary on issues to do with development. He asked me to join an extremely small team to make sure that the DFID capability was not being lost, or as my boss said to me recently, to try to keep him honest. Whether I'm succeeding or not, that's your choice and judgment. And please, I will be very happy to be judged on that in due course. But I was intrigued by the letter, and I'll speak from a point of view of what this means for developing countries and what it means there and what you try to achieve there. And I was especially struck by something that I have to applaud, which is saying we want to work with government. We want to actually be there and working with it. And I have 3 points to make with it, and I want to explain very quickly my reaction to it. So the first thing is, you're absolutely right that I've seen too often in developing countries and the kind of places I work in, I'll say a bit more about in a second, where you end up working in parallel, doing bits and pieces, nice, small scale, all the kind of thing. In the end, scale is of the essence. And it's important to try to be inside and not in parallel. It's only from the inside, I think, that a real change is really possible, and to actually making sure that it happens. Now, it comes with something really important, because by working at scale, you have to be willing to expose yourself also to the evidence that it actually makes a difference at scale. There's a lot of stuff that really works small, but doesn't work big. And it really means it needs it can't be anymore about belief or commitment or silver bullets. It has to be about being willing to be exposed to actually the evidence. Does it actually really make a difference? Do the innovations, the change make sense? But anyway, it's for me to applauding it, to be taking on that challenge to work at scale and to be assessed within working at scale with government. However, a second point quickly, in most of the world, it's actually not a bad time for development in some sense. Of course, there's awful things going on, but there is so much more space, including for social entrepreneurs and for others to do things. I'm actually quite positive about in a lot of what's happening in a lot of the developing world, except for the places where really things are totally stagnating. The kind of countries I'm mainly interested in is the ones that I'm pretty sure will virtually make no progress on the SDGs by 2030. The countries where most of the extreme poverty will be by 2030, and I can start listing them, the Nigerias, the DRCs, the Malawis, the Madagascars, in that order. It's in these places we have to be conscious and saying, oh, let's go and work with government. We're stepping it, and let me put it bluntly, you're stepping in elite bargains that don't care about the SDGs. They may well sign them, but they don't care. They're run by crooks, they're full of crooks, it's all about self-enrichment, there's very little happening. Taking on the challenge to work inside these governments, it's really a courageous challenge. And I think it's important to do. You make a political choice, you're sitting there within it, and how to maneuver them becomes a crucial thing there. And anyone who thinks that anyone involved in the aid system or in social entrepreneurship can be above politics, it's naive. You're within politics, there's no escaping. And so it means also you have to be really careful who you end up working with, because in a way you make a choice there. And it leads me to my final point, is to actually saying, actually there's a real opportunity there. By willing to do this from the inside with your eyes open, knowing that actually there's a lot of bad stuff going on at these places, you can't assume that the people you work with really want to change. And it is actually trying to start working of how to do it. And this is why, again, I applaud you by willing to work inside government, because from the outside we can screen, for the inside we may find the right people, the drivers of change, the individuals that actually are willing to do it. And in the end, the big prize also for social entrepreneurship will be, is not so much that we solve some problems, that we begin to get solutions, but actually that will nudge those people with power to actually be wanting to change themselves. And that's actually, I think, crucially want to do, to be properly changing these elite bargains that they actually also want to change. So it's 3 points. Working with government is right. Working with government is also a political choice, but working with government, there's the big prize that you actually can get them closer to wanting to really achieve the SDGs. And the solutions and the small bits you do are only a small bit. The big prize is that change that I really want to achieve these.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stefan. And I'm going to take as read your energy in this as an agreement or commitment to advance the proposals in the letter with your part-time boss at the FCDO. So thank you for that, or correct me if I'm wrong. But also, I'd like to ask whether you talked about the evidence base. I mean, you can chase evidence all day long, and lots of people in this network know that sometimes funders ask for that because they don't want to fund you. And sometimes they mean it and they actually do want to fund you and they just want to improve the evidence base. Is the Blavatnik, I mean, you're already across a lot of this, but I think it'd be great to work with you with that hat on the evidence base, with a view to getting things done and building an evidence for action. So I hope you're nodding.
I am nodding. And look, we know it's very hard, but in the end, you know, once we start working, not just with philanthropist money, which we can burn and take risks with, but with public money, we'll need to be able to prove that actually we make that change. I'll be the first one to say, anything we want to do, you need to be willing to show that there are certain outcomes from it, some results from it. At the same time, I've made the points on the political side, some of that change is slow and not easily captured in that evidence base, but you want to find a way of these two things to actually push them.
Yeah. So we have to keep moving along, Stefan. We can come back to you maybe in a bit, but thank you very much for that. And thank you for joining us. So moving on now to the head of unit and branch of the European Commission, Department of Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. Huge thanks to you for joining us, but also for the huge piece of policy that you're putting together on exactly this subject coming, I think, due in November, and for your engagement with the Catalyst Network already in the design of that policy. But your responses, please, Anne, to the letter and your advice to this network.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie, and hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So yes, indeed, I work for the European Commission, and I'm leading a team working on social and inclusive entrepreneurship and social economy. And indeed, we're working on a strategy that's going to be adopted later this year, an EU strategy on the social economy. And so that will cover social entrepreneurship, of course. I'm very happy to have the chance to comment on your paper. And I think you're absolutely right to target policymakers, because I think ultimately, if you want systemic change, you need to get influence policymakers. And I'd say that we're very much your point about having entry points into public administrations. Well, in DG Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion, that's my team, and we're very much carrying the flame that Jamie talked about for social entrepreneurship and social economy. We also have an entry point in our department for enterprise. So I think that's good. It's a good sign that the Commission has actually, teams in 2 different Commission departments working on this. It shows that we're taking it seriously. And it's also interesting to get your input, because we've been running a very large scale public consultation to develop our strategy that's coming out later this year. So a few reflections on the points that emerge. I mean, we share very much your vision of the importance of social entrepreneurship and social innovation to the challenges we're facing. In the European Commission, we recognize that they play a valuable role in job creation, labour market integration, social inclusion, social innovation. And we very much now see that they can help the transition to a more sustainable economic paradigm, and that they play a crucial role in the post-COVID recovery. And we see a great deal of untapped potential. So there's very different levels of development across countries in just the European Union, let alone globally. And clearly there's a big growth potential and a change of mindsets and generational energy around this. You raised the issue of stakeholder involvement in decision-making. This is something that's very important to the European Commission. I mean, it has been for many years. We've been big believers in better regulation and close partnership with stakeholders in general. In our specific field, we actually have an expert group of experts in social economy and social enterprises that we regularly exchange with. So just to show we take it very seriously. And we've also been engaging regularly with them in developing our action plan. We can see, though, that there's a challenge in terms of the players in this field being organised at the national level. And it's something we're looking at. Is there something we can do as a result of our action plan to help trigger new processes at the national level? We support certain European networks that represent these stakeholders in a way because we want to try. We hope that will have a trickle-down effect, but we see that more needs to be done. So we're looking at that. There are also many European funds that rely a bit on the sector being organised. For example, you'll have heard about the Recovery and Resilience Facility, the fund that the massive 670 billion recovery fund that the EU has launched. And this very much depends on stakeholders tapping in to the fund into national plans. So they have to reach out to their national governments and get into those plans to access the funds. So we've been liaising with stakeholders, our European networks, to try to mobilize their members to reach out to national governments. But it's an uneven exercise. It's challenging. So we see that there is a need for, in many countries, for stakeholders in these areas to get more organized. So we'll be looking at if we can do something to try to stimulate that process as a result of this action plan. You also referred to in the paper to silos, the problem of silos. And indeed, one challenge we encounter in developing this strategy is that it's so transversal when we're talking about social entrepreneurship and social economy. You find that they're present in so many economic sectors. So, but this is something we're trying to really engage all the Commission services in this action plan, because we see that there are many, many links in many areas. And indeed, we would recommend member states also to try to realise that you've got to work across silos. And then there are a number of points in your paper that echo very much what we're hearing from stakeholders in the feedback in preparation of our strategy. The issue of visibility, lack of visibility rather, it's a real issue. And we had a strategy in 2011, the Social Business Initiative, which first put the spotlight on social enterprise. And we've come a long way, but we see that it's still not visible enough. There isn't enough awareness among the general public or policymakers. And so, in fact, one of the outcomes we hope with our strategy is that it will help to put the policy focus and visibility at the national level, to wake up national policymakers to the social economy and social entrepreneurship. So, and this is important because, of course, the concerns and the needs won't be mainstreamed into public policy unless there's an awareness. So we hope that this strategy will make a contribution to that in itself. And then many of the points that are alluded to in the paper refer to the need to improve framework conditions for social enterprises. And this is true, all businesses need the right framework conditions. And we see that it's all the more important for social entrepreneurs and social enterprises because there are more, because of the greater ambition they set themselves. So we've done a lot of work in recent years to try to help member states and national policymakers improve their systems. So by developing the evidence base, we conducted the first ever Europe-wide mapping of social enterprise ecosystems covering 35 European countries. And that's triggered tremendous learning between policymakers in different countries. We've also worked with the OECD. We work on policy briefs.
Sorry, Anne, to interrupt you there. Have you shared that with this network or anyone in it? Or are you able to, that landscape?
Yeah, it's all publicly available. There probably are some members, but all of these are publicly available.
Great.
And the policy reviews, the country reviews, which give guidance to countries on how to improve their systems. We've also developed a better entrepreneurship tool. It's a web-based tool to help, again, policymakers make a self-assessment of where they stand in terms of social and inclusive entrepreneurship policies. And it's very much also we want them to engage with stakeholders in designing their policies. And we've had very good feedback. That's available. So we developed it primarily for the EU, but it's equally relevant to countries beyond the EU. So happy to provide links to all those resources. I think also still on framework conditions, you mentioned, I think Jamie, you mentioned, or somebody mentioned public procurement. This is like super important. I mean, it is 14% of EU GDP. And so this issue of socially responsible public procurement is an important avenue for social entrepreneurs. And there are already the EU public procurement directives, but the latest ones do already allow openings for social considerations to prevail over pure cost considerations. But there's a number of challenges, the small operators, the lack of awareness among policymakers that these opportunities exist or how to make use of them. So there's a big need for capacity building, which we are working on, but it's a massive task and we need to carry on working on awareness raising and capacity building. And then, sorry, I'm probably going on too long.
Yeah, I have to run on, I'm afraid, yeah.
Yeah.
Quick final point.
Yeah, access to funding, we agree, very important. We've done a lot, and we hear this thing about a one-stop shop, which, well, we've done a lot on funding, so very important, but I can't go into it more. Social innovation, scaling it, again, we hear very much that that's a challenge. We are actually setting up a pilot to try to do something to help with the challenge of scaling social innovation, but I can't really elaborate on that right now. But we're launching a pilot in Europe that we hope will help with this challenge. And then finally, I would say something on the international dimension, in the sense that we have, there's a growing interest in Commission departments in social entrepreneurship and social economy, in that if we know they're good for us in Europe, we know they're good internationally. And we're trying to help countries through our international programs to develop strategies and funding programs in these areas. So I would say, I mean, I could go on, I have a lot to say.
That's a great point to finish on.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And I think that's a great, I'm sure many of the Catalyst members and networks would very much like to pick you up, especially on everything you said, but particularly on that last point, because so many are not in Europe, about how, other regional bodies and institutions and agencies could learn from what you're doing and adapt it, but with some supportive sort of muscle power from yourself. Thank you again for your leadership. And I hear a clear, loud commitment to take the letter into your unit and into the departments and ministries and champion social entrepreneurship. So thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. So moving on, thank you. So Chris Milligan, counsellor at USAID, vastly experienced. You've been around. Thank you for joining us. And you've also got an exciting new boss, Administrator Power. who's also, I think, a keen, watcher of the Catalyst network and a fan of new ways of doing things. So, Chris, your thoughts, please. Thank you for joining us. Your thoughts, please, on the letter, and particularly the access.
Absolutely, Jamie. Absolutely, thank you. And I like the letter because the letter does first one thing that we need to do as a community, which is elevate the dialogue on social entrepreneurship. Look, there's been a lot of focus over the years on the importance of the private sector, the recognition that there's not enough funding available from governments and philanthropic sectors to address the world's development problems. But it's more than just money, it's about ideas. And we need to think big to take on today's global development challenges. And that's why we need to have as much passion in our arguments for engaging with social entrepreneurs as we do for the private sector engagement. Because we need to articulate that social entrepreneurs are the first movers, often before the private sector gets involved. And they're the individuals who experiment, they innovate, they take risks that lead to breakthrough solutions, and then that are ultimately financed and scaled. At USAID, we prioritize this innovation, and we've seen results. For example, in our development innovation ventures, which provides funding to social entrepreneurs, it has yielded $17 in social benefit for each dollar spent. And so when we elevate the conversation on social entrepreneurship, we need to back it up with these kinds of facts. In short, the status quo is not enough when it comes to addressing today's development challenges. And in response, social entrepreneurs are the ones who disrupt the status quo and spot the new opportunities. And secondly, it's not just funding, but support. And we need to seek ways to continue to support social entrepreneurs besides access to funding. We've heard a lot of good examples here today, creating platforms and networks, helping them apply a market-based solution that is business-oriented with good accounting and reporting and internal policies. We've done some work with that by pairing them through our higher educations. We've got one, the Social Entrepreneur Accelerated Duke, that we support. Finally, my last point is it's important that development institutions continue to create connections to social entrepreneurs, new engagement tools and new methods. At USAID, we're focused on finding the best ideas, period. It doesn't matter if our partners are for-profit or not-profit, big, small, based in the United States or not. So we've created new tools for co-creation and co-design that lower the barriers to entry. And so one is our new partners initiative, which has simplified access to USAID resources. And I'll put a link in the chat box on that. Another one is our development innovation ventures, which takes an investment approach to grant making. That means we receive applications for funding for anyone, and then we manage it through 3 tiers: initial seed funding for piloting innovation, more funding for testing, and finally the final tranche for scaling to innovation. And since its founding in 2010, half of all applications have come from for-profit entities. We've received 11,360 applications. So if you are a social entrepreneur with a promising idea and you want that one-stop access, I will put a link in the chat box how you can consider applying for a DIV grant. Today's global solutions begin with social entrepreneurship. So thank you, Jamie, and thank you to Catalyst 2030 for bringing us together for this Catalyzing Change Week.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us. And I think we're going to ask all the panelists to remain advocates and friends of the network, and an informal kind of public policy, getting it done on the inside network to help make sure that we implement better. And we will be in touch, Chris. Trust me. Moving on, Wendy Tilecki from the World Bank, running the Women Entrepreneurs Finance Initiative, which was, launched a few years ago. It's a very exciting initiative and a classic example of what we're talking about. Over to you, Wendy, your thoughts on the letter and how the World Bank, you think, is doing on this agenda.
Thanks so much, Jamie, and good afternoon or evening to everybody. I'm really pleased to join everyone today as you close out this exciting week. I know you've had a lot of discussions about the challenges and aspirations as social entrepreneurs around the world. And I appreciate having a chance to review the letter which you've shared, which really does raise a lot of important concerns and recommendations. and I'll try to give a few reflections on that as I speak. As you said, Jamie, I think WeFi does represent a good example of the types of collaboration that's required, where we require more. For those of you who don't know about WeFi, it was created in 2017 under the auspices of the G20 under the German presidency, when 14 donor governments came together to create this initiative. We work through 6 multilateral development banks, including the Asian Development Bank, African, Islamic, Inter-American, European regional development banks, and the World Bank. And we're housed at the World Bank. And those MDBs, which I know are part of your letter, and it's why I'm trying to give you this example, they really use the WeFi funding that we're able to provide to them to unlock finance markets and skills for women entrepreneurs in developing countries. Through the WeFi program, those multilateral development banks are are running activities in 60 developing countries. We've allocated about $300 million to these programs, which will catalyze another $3 billion. And most of those projects have partnerships with CSOs, governments, the private sector, financial institutions. So we very much work across the ecosystem and try to bring in social entrepreneurs, governments, private sector together to make sure we're removing all the barriers that women entrepreneurs face. So as you know, we focus on entrepreneurs, which includes commercial entrepreneurs, but also there are many women who are social entrepreneurs or whose businesses have really important social impacts. They drive new innovations and solutions in their communities, and they help lift others out of poverty and transform economies. So we think empowering these women in whatever form of entrepreneurship they're undertaking is really critical. But they face a lot of challenges that this cross-cutting work across the ecosystem really tries to address, and particularly because women are concentrated in sectors like service sectors, including health and education, where they're having a lot of these social impacts, where they're deriving new business models, new community development models to have important impacts on their community. But what it means is that they face a lot of constraints because as businesses, they might have lower margins, whether they're social or commercial enterprises, they have less access to finance. They tend to be smaller and grow less quickly than male-led businesses. So we see the challenges for women in particular as entrepreneurs as being quite significant, and they face a lot of biases and hurdles that men don't always have to face, and that includes in terms of the networks they have, the access to finance, the types of support they can get, whether it's from groups like ours, banks, accelerators, incubators. There's just a lot of evidence that those systems do have biases inherent in them that affect women and make it more difficult for them to grow and succeed with their endeavors. And of course, COVID has made things worse. And very much to your point, what we see is the governments are taking measures to address COVID issues, but not necessarily getting to address and this is of course in emerging markets in particular where we work, really trying to support those entrepreneurs who are going to drive the change going forward. So we see a lot of data showing that the financing programs aren't necessarily getting to SMEs, let alone women-led businesses. On the topic of procurement, very few women are able to get access to procurement opportunities, and that's a big challenge for many of them. So your letter really rightly points out that there does need to be a greater focus on entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs in particular to drive a lot of the changes that are happening going forward. And I do think the MDBs, the work that we're doing with them on women entrepreneurs, but also through other entrepreneurship ecosystem programs and other public-private partnership programs, have started trying to do this, but there's definitely more to do. And finding ways through these kinds of multi-stakeholder initiatives is really important. WeFi is one channel of this. We're really trying to get our MDB partners, including the World Bank, where we sit, to embed a lot more focus and structured efforts in their operations to support women entrepreneurs. And we're also trying to spur some more systems change. And I'll just give you an example of something that we're looking at going forward, where women entrepreneurs, and it's the same on the social enterprise side, have a very hard time accessing finance. And it starts with not even really being able to talk to financial institutions about what they're doing in this space. They don't track the data, they don't know the data. And so we're looking to work with regulators, with banks, with fintechs, with other standard setters to really make sure we can quantify the levels of financing that are going out for women entrepreneurs, and make sure that we can hold those institutions accountable for doing more to support women entrepreneurs. And we'll be undertaking more work on that in the coming months, including, we'll be talking a little bit about this at Generation Equality and some other places. But there needs to be more. We know that the systems are changing. The sectors are going to really be transforming. There's a lot of disruption happening, and this is a key opportunity for social entrepreneurs to really help us build back better. We at the WeFi and through our partner organizations, the MDBs, do see the need to work more with social entrepreneurs, to leverage women as leaders, as business leaders, and as thought leaders, and to help them be part of the amazing advances that we have going forward with social change and environmental change and all the other areas that we're in. So I'd just like to leave with noting that this work that you're doing is really important. This letter draws out a lot of really important things. The challenges you've addressed are real, including making sure that our MDB partners and the governments and private sector partners that we work with really do engage with social entrepreneurs. And we're very happy to be part of this conversation. So thank you very much.
Fantastic, Wendy. Thank you for the examples you gave and the leadership you're giving. As by way of wrapping up a lot of the commentary, first of all, thank you all for your commitment to take the letter and its recommendations into your institutions, feedback on how it's going, and let's keep dialoguing. We'll also take up some of the comments in the chat about how we do this. We've had a certain level of conversation here. We need to have lots of country by country versions of this conversation, so the network members can organize and access in lots of country by country settings, but how best practice internationally applies to lots of different tougher settings, I think is something we could really do with all your help on. Something I said at the beginning, I'm just going to repeat. We need a sort of an anti-austerity campaign over the next couple of years. We need to make sure that investment levels are buoyant to tackle COVID, stop the next pandemic, deliver green recoveries that avert a climate catastrophe and deliver the SDGs. It's a phenomenal, large, challenging agenda. There's been leadership in the White House, leadership in Europe, leadership we hope shortly from the G7 and the host, the United Kingdom. There's a paper coming out on Monday from Sir Nick Stern, looking at a very large level of sort of almost Marshall Plan-esque at a global level scale financing. We are excited about that. We want to make that happen, but we are worried about it. If it does not get programmed in new ways, and we present ourselves, the Catalyst Network, as a way of challenging the old way that money was invested and being places that some of this sort of additional financing as well as underlying could be better programmed into the future in better co-benefit designed ways, delivering better at the local level. And we really want to work with you all on this. The letter will be going, on into the G7 and G20. We have a G7 Sherpas meeting on Monday and lots more of those coming up, as well as in the G20. So we'll be engaging in those processes as well as other regional and country by country ones. To all the Catalyst members, please engage. If you are in a country, want to or have access, help us get these messages through, adapted for your markets. So please, I think that is has to be us wrapping up now, Jeru. I just want to again thank our panelists. You've been extremely insightful and inspiring. Please stay engaged with us, and we'll hold you to your promise to take the letter and its recommendations into your institutions. And thank you for what you're already doing on this agenda. Thank you. So Jeru, thank you, Jeru. You're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Jamie. Thanks for being the most fantastic chair for Catalyzing Change Week and agreeing to push this. A big thank you to all the panelists, because you all have been amazing, and we are going to follow up with every one of you and take you on your commitment to make sure social entrepreneurs are front and center stage. So let's make this happen. Let's get the change, accelerated change that we want happening. And with that, so thank you, but this is just the beginning. So it may be the closing of Catalyzing Change Week, but it's the beginning of accelerated action to which we will take all of you on our shared journey, all of us together. And next year, we shall have you all back reporting what we have done. So thank you. And thanks, Jamie, once again. And once again, thanks to all the committee members who helped put Catalyzing Change Week forward. Thank them, and we've put them names. So thank you all very, very much. I'm going to move into, we had lots of accelerated actions through the week, and we would have loved to feature all of them, but we can't. So we are just going to feature a few actions. And before that, I'm going to start with Shivani from SCOLE and what they have done and how they've accelerated their interventions with SCOLE. Over to you, Shivani.
Thank you, Jeru, and thanks for including me here. And while I had the honor of being in a session around a call to action for inspiring and promoting women social entrepreneurs and social innovators, I'll let my friends from that session share more. As you said, I've been asked to share a bit about our actions at the SCOLE Foundation around COVID. And first, I would just like to say that the SCOLE Foundation is grateful to be a part of Catalyst 2030 and the West COVID Response Alliance, who are coordinating efforts and support with allies for social entrepreneurs and social innovators during this pandemic emergency. The approach that we've been taking at the SCOLE Foundation has been around looking at long-term impact to prevent the next pandemic in this moment, but also being responsive to the needs in front of us. And part of that work ranges from supporting social entrepreneurs and other social innovators who are working to strengthen health systems and regional coordination across stakeholders, also with groups like ONE, the Africa CDC, and its counterparts in other geographies, to looking at how we can support a global surveillance, detection, and prevention network. And in this moment of crisis in India, Brazil, and other locations, we're providing emergency funding to organizations in our portfolio deeply impacted, and also trying to support frontline response efforts by providing money through intermediaries and collaborative efforts like those of Basra, who is in India, helping coordinate resources and response right now, and who knows where the need is on the ground and which local social entrepreneurs can best benefit from funding at this time. We invite others to join us as we come together as an ecosystem, which so much of this week has continued to inspire. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Shivani, for that. And then a very exciting announcement from Manmeet, which was from the COVID Alliance. Over to Manmeet.
Hi, hello. I'm speaking in from the street, so I apologize for all of the background sound. Wasn't able to find a quiet corner. Just to sort of echo that, you know, the spirit of collaboration and trusting community voices on the ground is sort of underpinning our efforts across Catalyst 2030 and the COVID Alliance and Ashoka and SCOLE and other partners. And there is an urgency and an importance to acting, and yeah, we're going to keep listening to what the entrepreneurs are telling us.
And the exciting announcement is Francoise, who is a great champion, has an article on Catalyst and the work social entrepreneurs are doing, which got out in the World Economic Forum today. So that's one of our accelerated actions. And from Manmeet, I move over to Olivier. 30 seconds to you, Olivier.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jero. Together, I'm from Learning Planet, and together with Club of Rome and Catalyst 2030, we've been launching a Learning for Sustainability Circle. So across all disciplines and across all regions of the world, this circle will focus on how learning processes and education, all types of education, need to evolve to better address the sustainability issues that we are facing. So this circle is bringing together leading players, institutions, social entrepreneurs, youth activists and movements willing to create radical collaboration schemes and impactful on-the-ground projects. So the circle is now launched. It will be meeting on a regular basis, at least monthly, and you are all invited to join if you are in the field of learning or sustainability or both.
Thanks, Olivier. That was perfect. Thank you very much. From Olivier, over to a young member, Plai.
Hello, everyone. I am Plai from Thailand, Children's Rights Intern with the Learning Planet team. I am presenting the launch of the Youth Empowerment Circle, called by Learning Planet, Catalyst 2030, and CAP 2030. It was a truly collaborative effort of many organizations and over 140 participants over 2 sessions. This circle allows youth-focused organizations to meet, share resources, and advance meaningful global actions towards youth empowerment in all fields related to our future, such as health and well-being, education, rights, and climate change. It also invites international institutions such as UNICEF, WHO, Save the Children, and Club of Rome to work with youth to shape effective and inclusive policies and programs that empower young people. I'm proud to be part of the circle, bringing together youth from different parts of the world to share stories about their projects that impact their communities. Youth take the leading role in this circle, with adults there to listen first. This circle will meet monthly to form long-lasting collaborative projects to empower youth. Please join us for the next session on the 1st of June. I end with a word from one of our youth speakers, Niti from Diksha. She says, I came for the positive, action-oriented energy that leads to ground reality changes. Join us in this exciting, energetic co-creation. Thank you.
Thanks, Plai. This is what we need. Thank you very much. And over from Plai to Rana.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rana Dajani from Jordan, founder of We Love Reading. We held a session on inspiring global female women entrepreneurs. We want to create a blueprint on how to accelerate that. So we came up with 5 points. One is we have to reimagine success. That not one size fits all, and there's so many new ways of looking at entrepreneurship and success. This means that we need to tell the stories and showcase the role models, speaking in local languages and allowing them to speak with their own voices to inspire others and change the narrative and the paradigm. So media and writing are so important, which leads us that we need a lot of the challenges comes from ignorance. So we need more data, more research that can back up advocacy in order to enable change. And we need to include everybody. Men have to be part of this conversation because this is a community and everyone counts in changing the paradigm and making a paradigm shift. And lastly, it's about doing things, saying something. If we say something that is wrong, we have to do it. We have to call out to each other, work together. So in that spirit, I'm so excited about the Wendy and what she talked about in her program and wanting to work with us. So we reach out our hand and say, let's work together. We look forward to the conversation continuing right after this week.
Thanks, Rana. And Wendy, Rana will reach out to you, I'm sure, as will be. Over to Manoj.
Hi, everyone. I'm Manoj Panchwani from New York, and we had a great session on highlighting the different types of capitals that's available to social enterprises. And we tried to look at it, sort of explore opportunities for funding other than the traditional grant making. Now, we're looking to leverage the energy in that session and to create a group, a community of practice that will systematically identify obstacles to funding for social enterprises so that they have every opportunity of succeeding in their social enterprises. We might well start with a white paper, but our focus is very much on creating something that's practical and useful. And some of the goals that we will be looking to address would be, addressing the implicit unconscious biases that exist in the investment or decision-making cycles, and to use education and better risk management in improving the chances of social enterprises to get the right type of funding. We're creating this the community fairly shortly, so watch out for the announcement.
Thanks, Manoj. So we look forward to funding, and over to Eva.
Thank you very much. My name is Eva Danchikuka. I'm the Chief of Program at Tostan International. So what we do at Tostan is to empower communities so that they can achieve their own development. We are also partnering with local authorities and civil society to share our methodology. So it was so great to be part of this Catalyzing Change Week. So our session today was focused on how we use African philanthropy funds as well as non-African philanthropy funds to be able to really support social justice work in Africa. It was quite a great, inspiring session. We were able to connect with people from different area, different continent, and different countries. So thank you, really. It was so amazing to be part of this.
Thank you, Africa. And thank you, Eva. And I know we are going to look at funding differently in Africa, decolonizing aid in Africa. Now I'd like to move to the four members of the facilitation team, Bram, Deepa, Matt, and Nick. Each one of them is going to, in 30 seconds, talk about the accelerated action. Bram.
Okay, ever so quickly. In the session with the Digital Minister of Taiwan, Ms. Audrey Tang, it was announced that Taiwan will continue its presidential hackathon program with their international track, and they invited Catalyst to collaborate on this this year. They still haven't announced it publicly yet. It will be centered around climate action. So I think the climate IBG will be getting a bit of homework. And in the session with Norway, with NORAD, NORAD has agreed to continue the discussion with Catalyst to see how social entrepreneurs can better be integrated into funding systems. And with Finland also continuing the conversation. That's it.
Thanks. Okay. 30 seconds over to Deepa.
Hi all, we've been absolutely, I manage or facilitate the partnerships and advocacy team, and we've been absolutely thrilled to work with a lot of existing IBG members to coordinate sessions over the course of the week, but we've been even more thrilled to ideate and facilitate sessions that for conversations that haven't been happening, and we're thrilled to launch 5 new issue-based groups on multifaceted and complex issues that cut across all the SDGs: mental health, responsible consumption, structural racism, sustainable fashion, and early childhood development. And we'll be working with members to accelerate the action needed for systemic and structural change. So get involved with me to take part.
And Deepa, make sure you always participate. So from Deepa over to Matt for 30 seconds.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm Matt, and I work with the donor relations team at Catalyst 2030. And this week we've engaged with and seen some really important shifts in the mindsets of funders of all sizes and really from across the world. What has been extremely encouraging for us are the many commitments of funders made this week to appraise their own practice and to embrace the principles required to enable social entrepreneurship to flourish. And one funder told us, funding systems change is the only way that we know how to solve complex problems. Bravo. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And from Matt over to Nick.
Thanks, Drew. Even my mum gets my name wrong. I'm Nick Graham. I have the privilege to facilitate collaborations in this wonderful community. And I just want to tantalize you with some of the emerging communities of practice from the hundreds of amazing catalysts that we've had the privilege to witness. So catalysts invite you to many interrelated communities of practice around living equity, indigenous wisdom, systems change learning, facilitating groups of change makers like that youth empowerment group that we just heard from, transformative economies, and so much more. I want to just leave you on the group that's emerging around accountability for value, because I'm seeing that it's by rubbing shoulders with such inspiration that we can be in service to each other and to life.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you very, very much. I know we are 3 minutes over, but I request all of you to please stay back because I want to take this opportunity. If we can move to gallery view for everybody, please. I want to take this opportunity. How do we do that? I have no idea. Can we do that? Sorry, all of you know I'm a tech idiot. Sorry. I really want to take this opportunity for everybody to pat the backs of our membership, because it is the membership which makes Catalyst. And I want to really, really thank everyone in the membership for making Catalyst and catalyzing Change Week what is today. So thank you very much to everybody in the membership. Special thanks to, once again, the task force with Jamie's leadership on catalyzing Change Week. We've been saying that, but also to the communications task force, working group, sorry, I get this wrong. The communications working group, which has been silently behind the scenes, working to spread the word and to make everything happen. So I'd like to thank everybody, especially the two chairs of the comms working group and everyone in there. Moving from the comms working group, I would like to thank Christine and Lesa Communications. Christine, Lynn, Karen, Sarah, Thandu, Rani, you all have been excellent. So thank you very much to the whole of Lesa Communications. They've been behind all the comms that has happened. And last but not the least, I want you to give a rip-roaring thanks to the Catalyzing Change team. And I'm going to go by each department. My team, and I'm saying my team like a proud mama, has worked 80 hours work week to pull this week off. So can we please all join the teams as I say the names of every single team and department, because they've been fantastic. Nick and his team. Anthony, wave your hand, Anthony, so everyone can see you. Martina, wave your hand. All of you know Martina, but still. Many of you know Faith from the awards. Faith, wave. Over to Susanna, who heads all of everything which is linked. Susanna, Magdalena, and Gabriela are two fantastic interns who made it possible. So thanks to them. Over to donor relations, Matthew and Luisa, you saw them anchor a lot of all the funding sessions which are there. Paula, our operations person, one and only, we have a one-person operations and communications team, which is the indomitable Paula. And last but not the least, the innovations department which took it forward. So I'm going to start with the interns first. Corina, wave your hand. Corina, we used to call her Miss CCW. Verla, who looked after the government sessions. Yasmin, who compiled everything that is happening. Toma, who looked after all the other things which were there. Lena, who joined in for 1 month to do all our social media. And you've been getting the newsletters. That's all Lena. She was the one who got us on there. Last but not the least, two people. Yvonne. Guys, a big hand to Yvonne because she did last year's CCW and this year's CCW. And then I want all of you to join me in singing Happy Birthday to Brown.
Wait. Can I do a thank you to
sorry, I forgot
our lot, please.
Partnerships team. Partnerships team, Deepa's team. Sorry, Deepa, I skipped, my bad, sorry. The partnerships team, Deepa, Julia, Ben, Marina, and Karen. I apologize. This is what happens sometimes when, where are you? Deepa, Julia, Ben, Marina, Karen. It's Ben's last day. So we give a bigger hug to Ben because it's the last day of his internship. And then last but not, so sorry, Deepa, it was there and skipped, sorry.
All right.
But they were fantastic. All the issue-based groups has been done by this dynamic trio of interns under Deepa's mamaness. Last but not the least, can we all sing Happy Birthday to Brahm? He was the person behind everything that's happened. So let's sing, and it's his birthday today. He became a big 40. So embarrass him to death. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
birthday to you. Birthday, dear Brown. Happy birthday to you.
Viva! Joyeux anniversaire!
that was terrible. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all very much for a fantastic Catalyzing Change Week, for being the most wonderful and inspiring membership to serve. Thank you very much. And once again, a giant hug to the whole family. Thank you. Sorry for keeping you all for a bit longer. Jamie, final
Thank you to you, Jeru.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yes,